Smith, everybody well?
Yes, thank you, sir. We're glad to see you home, sir.
This is Mrs. De Winterfeld.
How do you do?
I didn't expect the whole staff to be in attendance.
Mr. Stanford's orders, sir.
Oh, sorry about this. Won't take long.
If you love listening to this show, please consider giving a rating and a review on Amazon Alexa or wherever you listen. We want to continue bringing you this amazing content, and part of our ability to do that means that we need a big audience. Now, it may not seem like much, but rating and reviewing the show will help more people find us, just like how you found this show. Simply on any podcast platform, search for our show, scroll down to the bottom, and push 5 stars. It's that easy. Thanks for supporting the show. Today, I'm joined by Eric Jenkusky, who is a co-founder and CEO of Matrix Meets. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Scott.
So you've spent some 3 decades mostly focused on defense, homeland securities, as well as really assisting law enforcement, military, related to everything from forward projected operations, operator personnel protection, mass casualty incidents, mass decontamination, to disaster recovery and counterterrorism, and many other things. Now, be it security, housing, transportation, hangar space, to aviation, fueling, I mean, your company, TJ Clark, has really provided a lot of interesting, both on the equipment, but also on the services side, to the likes of U.S. Special Ops in Afghanistan, Iraq, to the likes of, even Israeli defense and many other military and law enforcements globally. So can you tell us a little bit about your 3 decades of work there?
Well, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest with you. It's been a blur. Didn't have any grand master plan to get involved with national security, but ultimately ended up mostly operating within what they call expeditionary operations, which is the forward projection of power. All over the world. Have been fortunate enough to travel to 42 different countries related to my work over the past 30 years. So that in and of itself has been, I could go on for hours about, but mostly just making sure that our troops are able to operate in austere environments and in forward projected environments all over the planet. And 6 years ago, when I launched TJ Clark, we focused on aviation capabilities and refueling aviation, and then later even providing various types of aviation related services in different parts of the world, including South America and Africa, etc. So it's been real interesting, and actually interestingly led us to provide some aviation services to Paramount Pictures for season 2 of Jack Ryan that they filmed with John Krasinski, playing the role of Jack Ryan in their TV series. So myself and some other members of the TJ Clark team were on set in Colombia for season 2 for episodes like 3 through 7, I think, or something like that. So that was interesting, getting a little peek into the Hollywood world as opposed to the defense world.
I think, for me, as I'm listening, what's really interesting is that you guys are a problem solver because of the nature of, completely off the grid operation that are, you can't readily get, electricity, water, certainly fuel for any type of transportation. And here you are actually, you have to make sure that it's properly equipped for those, different types of missions. So, and regardless of the terrain, you have to figure out how to get that stuff there, whether it's a hangar, all the fuels, all the parts, and maybe the technicians. And that's a lot of logistical creativity, right? And I wonder if you could just give us one example of kind of a challenging example of how you guys, kind of overcame something that was really would have been quite formidable otherwise.
Well, going a little further back, we had after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, we were asked. I was actually working for a different company at the time, but the mindset has always been the same. And you're spot on. We are problem solvers. That's our main, the main product offering or service offering is problem solving. And after the earthquake, there was there was no way to get into Port-au-Prince. The Port-au-Prince airport was 100% consumed by military aircraft landing. And although we had services that were required, so we actually flew everything into Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic and drove overland. People don't realize how large the island of Hispaniola is that encompasses Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But it was a 10-hour drive from Santo Domingo, and most of the Dominican Republic has U.S. style highways. It's not like we're driving on dirt roads, we were able to just bring in a number of different pieces of equipment that were required at the embassy in Port-au-Prince that allowed them to do some jobs, because at the time the 18th Airborne Corps had just returned from the Middle East, from Iraq, and on top of it, they didn't have any equipment readily available to them to be able to operate in a tropical environment. All their equipment had been geared toward operating in the desert. So just simple things like permethrin and mosquito nets. Haiti has, there's a lot of malaria, et cetera. Everybody had to take anti-malarial medicine, and just being able to provide those anti-mosquito capabilities. It's something that simple, but that can really throw a monkey wrench into your operations if a number of your troops fall ill with malaria, as an example. So that's like a first kind of problem that was able to solve. After Superstorm Sandy, I got a call from the New York National Guard looking for fuel, and they called us at 8:00 on a Saturday night after Superstorm Sandy hit New York City. And by Sunday morning at 9 a.m., we had them 100,000 gallons of MoGas, which is gasoline, and 50,000 gallons of diesel delivered on a weekend.
Amazing. Incredible. Well, I could see why the government needs you, because I'm sure trying to get them to figure out that logistic that quickly would be nearly impossible. So let's quickly transition to what you're working on. So I know that you and your son are continuing to operate the TJ Clark, but your focus has shifted to cultivated meats. Tell us a little bit about Matrix Meats and what is cultured or cultivated meat?
Yeah, so I got involved with Matrix Meats because I was actually working with the Eco Startup Nursery, which is one of the co-founding organizations of Matrix, together with Nanofiber Solutions. And I was providing Eco some insight. They had no one on the team that had previously had any experience working in the military world. And as they were looking to make investments in technologies, they wanted to see, is there a dual use in the military? Well, after being there a couple of months, Dr. Robert Lee, the CTO, approached me and he said, "Hey, we want you to take a look at this other technology and see, we think you might be the guy to help, run with this, because it's so new and there's really nothing around this." And he told me, I said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, it's scaffolds for nanofiber scaffolds for cultivated meat. And I looked at him like, I had no idea what you're talking about. Like, I had literally no idea. I mean, early in my career, in the first defense company I worked with, we did have a division that worked with food processing companies. So I had a little exposure to like Anheuser-Busch and Kraft and Breakstones and et cetera, but never beach nut baby food. But it was very limited. So I really didn't have any understanding. Like, I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, hey, I'll email you a bunch of documents and some web links and do a deep dive. Well, the more I looked into it, I said, this is really, really fascinating and unbelievable. It's not every day that you get invited to participate in the development of a product that has the ability to change, literally positively affect change for the entire planet. So that's why I got involved with Matrix. And the great thing about it is the team at NFS have already been developing these scaffolds for research for over a decade. And it's proven technology. We were just going to apply it into a new market. And I became excited about the possibility of becoming enabling technology for the entire industry. And that's why we were able to go out and I think raise the money that we raised from the VC world, from a number of the companies that are the leaders in investing in alternative protein, that have invested in the Memphis Now Upsides, that have invested in the Mosas, in the Olive Farms, and the Blue Nalus. These are the companies that invested in us are the companies that, in many cases made the seed stage investments in those companies as well, because I think they recognized the quality of the technology and how it could really have an impact.
So let's get into the science, because we don't have a ton of time today. Is when it comes to cell-based meats or aqua products, certainly getting the taste and some of the features is hard enough. But then when it comes to form, certainly structure to build on top of structure, because it's typically kind of 3D printed at some point, is to mimic the muscle tissue, the fiber tissue, the nuances, so that when you actually bite into it, it feels and tastes like some sort of meat that you're eating, whether it's beef, chicken, pork, or fish. So tell us about the scaffolds. What specifically is being used? And how does it form, and how do you actually have the integrity of that structure?
You may also like our quarterly Astor Perkins event that brings some of the most notable experts and category-leading startups in their area of sustainability and human survival on Earth and in space. To register, visit astorperkins.com/events.
So we replicate the extracellular matrix, which is that structure that's found in all living organisms that cells grow across. I often equate it to give people a visual, a lattice up the side of a chimney, and the vine growing along that lattice, whereas the vine represents the cells and the lattice is our scaffold. The technology that we utilize is from a manufacturing standpoint is called electrospinning, and we electrospin the fibers, and we're able to control a number of variables: the alignment of the fiber, the thickness, the diameter, the porosity, etc. And we can make it from any number of materials. We can make it from zein, which is corn protein, zein and pea protein, zein and soy, zein and PCL, which is polycaprolactic acid. And so we're able to make it from a number of different materials that are optimized for these various types of cells. And then the cells grow across the scaffold and then form a solid piece of meat. We also can control the degradation rate of the scaffold. So the scaffold over time can completely degrade and is not even part of the finished product.
So again, for those that are listening, the scaffold provides a structure by which the cells can replicate and really create that structure or volume volumetric aspects and the texture. But
Yes.
over time, just like any stitching or surgery, that essentially kind of disappears, but the cellular makeup still retains that volume and structure.
That is correct. I mean, most recently, there was actually a study that was funded by the Department of Defense at the University of Pennsylvania Medical Center that was released in the journal Nature last August, where they utilized our scaffold technology to do volumetric muscle. And it was for a volumetric muscle loss study where in the future we'll regrow human muscle to help replace with injuries received on the battlefield. But in this particular case, they regrew at volume muscle mass for mice and reinserted these muscle these volumetric chunks of muscle, if you will, back into the mice, and they were integrated into the body, which proves the whole concept of what we've been trying to do with our customers in the alternative protein space, in the cultivated meat space.
And just to be very clear is, when you say customers, really your customers are the ones that are making the alternative meats, and you guys are providing the scaffold structure or IP to them, correct?
That is correct. We don't grow any meat ourselves. We're in essence an ingredient provider or enabler, and our technology works with the companies that are the actual meat companies. So our name is a little bit of a Matrix Meats. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but we wanted to make sure that people knew what kind of, we were in the meat, in the meat business. We just don't actually grow the finished product.
Now, the thing I think, once you get down to several levels below is that there's a lot of complexity. So even if you're dealing with, let's say, cattle meats, cow cells, is different cuts have different characteristics. So volume is one thing, but to have a certain grain, certain direction, certain density, it's quite tricky, right? And then when you're trying to infuse it with fats and not just protein, but fat aspects, so that, let's say, some of the better premium meats where the fat and the meat and the protein aspect is really well integrated and kind of marbled. Talk about kind of the complexity of that and how some of this lattice structure scaffolds can help facilitate these very complex, structures to create the right volume, but also the textures and patterns.
So the great thing about our technology is that we can program the scaffolds where one scaffold can be growing muscle cells, or from bovine muscle cells as an example, and then another scaffold could be growing the various fats. Another can grow ligaments and tendons, etc. And then you can combine all of those together to create a solid piece of meat that has all of the features that we're accustomed to when we partake in traditional slaughtered meat.
So again, I mean, I think it's a lot more complex in the sense, let's take a drumstick, chicken drumstick, for instance. If you really look at the anatomy of that, there's a lot of different things going on. So
Correct.
to build, components of that, and then to actually properly, stack it or put it together in a kind of integrated fashion, that's really tricky, right? So can you talk about some of the nuances in terms of, sensitivity to things like temperature or processes that, that the scaffolds have to work within, as well as, you mentioned degradation, but also just kind of, decay issues and other types of things that manufacturers have to worry about?
Well, the manufacturers, luckily, we don't have to worry about so many of those things. It's our customers that do, in terms of being able to control environment with regard to temperature, providing growth factor or the food, if you will, for the cells to be able to grow. And there is, there's a difference, as an example, between fish cells and mammalian cells. Fish cells grow at a much lower temperature than mammalian cells grow at, just as an example. and that you need to even within the same species, from bovine cell to bovine cell, there may be nuances that where one type of our scaffold will work great with one particular type of bovine cell, depending upon where that particular animal, where the biopsy was taken from, has been raised over, in some cases, centuries, and an animal or another cattle beef cattle that's from another part of the world, where it would require a slightly different recipe for our scaffold for that cell to be able to adhese and proliferate better. It may require, quite frankly, different growth factors or different porosity or alignment based upon the type of cell or the size of the cells, et cetera. So that's one of the things that we do, is that we work very closely with our customers to optimize the scaffolds to their particular cell type, as well as their process, what bioreactor they use, their growth factor, and then where we get inputted into that manufacturing process.
So part of the reason I was kind of drilling down a little bit is exactly to get at the point that you just made, which is that, the last 30 plus years, you've been a problem solver. And, the reality is there is no one solution that fits all. So for even the same customer, depending on the specific cells and the processes and the end product that they're looking to, manufacture, you basically have to customize every little thing. So it's solving for really nuances and really technical challenges that really doesn't really have a, perhaps kind of a turnkey solution per se. And I think that problem solving really, that pattern is something that's going to be very valuable. And certainly, this sector that you're in is very much still burgeoning. So I think there's a lot of things that we'll have yet to kind of discover in terms of challenges that we need to overcome. But it's very exciting. Let's transition, talk about in terms of your perspective, in terms of where the market's going, and for you specifically as a company, the kind of receptivity and the market reaction that you're seeing for your product.
Don't forget to visit astorperkins.com to register for our next quarterly events. Past and current speakers include Damian Vaughn, former NFL player, Neil Gregory, Chief Thought Leadership Officer at the IFC World Bank, and many more. To register, visit astorperkins.com and click on Events.
We're seeing a great receptivity to our product, and we actually just did a presentation yesterday on a monthly series on the Good Food Institute's. They have a running, like a running forum to be able to present, and we had some results that we were able to present yesterday, which has led to a number of companies reaching out. We were already working with a large number of the companies in the space, many names that you would know if I could tell you who they were, and we're real excited about where we are. We know that we have the ability to scale already, because the technology that we utilize comes from electrospinning is a already multi-decade old tech that it already has the ability to be scaled, and there's a number of products that are scaled on a very large scale with it. So we're real excited about where we are, and I think because this is a nascent industry, there is no roadmap already. There's a lot of this is a lot of figuring it out as you go. And personally, I thrive in that kind of environment. So I think it's for me, I'm in the right place, because we're literally solving, in some cases, problems hour to hour. And long term, I think that we will see cultivated meat in our restaurants, in our supermarkets, in the not too distant future. I think it's going to, and most likely at first it'll be a hybrid product. So it'll be partially cultivated meat together with a plant-based product, and then eventually we'll have solid 100% cultivated meat products. But out of the gate here, before too long, we'll be seeing some of these hybrid products like the chicken nugget that just with their good food division launched in Singapore. You'll be seeing those types of products globally much sooner than I think a lot of people thought.
Going back to the dual use because of your background, is that I think there's a lot of novelty in what you're doing, but yet to me there's a direct applicability to defense and military. So whether we're talking about in the context of extreme, let's say, warlike situation, which is, by the way, part of the reason why spam has become a global phenomenon is because of World War II. Is if in fact you have some sort of nuclear proliferation and actual uses of those, certain land masses are not going to be usable. You can't really have cattle. So being able to actually produce meat in a way that's sustainable under the ground or something else becomes almost necessary for survival. Certainly in the case of space and terraforming on Moon, Mars, anywhere else, you can't afford to just bring cattle and create have bovine meat readily. You have to be able to manufacture in a lab setting. So there's a lot of applicability to the defense side as well as the private commercial side. The last question I want to ask you is kind of lessons learned because of your pattern of figuring things out where there aren't necessarily answers available to, I could tell that you come up to speed very quickly within this new domain. Some of the kind of challenges or things that you've experienced that you can share with others.
I think one of the challenges that we experience as a company is that we're material scientists. We're not biologists. But we're material sciences that work in the biology, realm or world. And sometimes we do have a challenge of explaining the mechanical engineering and the physics that go behind developing these scaffolds to optimize them for biology. And that sometimes is a challenge with our friends on the biology side. Marrying those two sciences together so that we can deliver a product that works. And that education is something that is sometimes a challenge. But overall, it's I think everybody, it's a brave new world, right? People, we don't know what we don't know yet, and a lot of times we're just working through some of these challenges that come up when we're testing or attempting to seed cells. And like our products, another challenge is that they require a large, because of the porosity, there's a massive surface area which is much greater than the surface area that a lot of biologists are normally accustomed to seeding cells on. And because of that, we have to seed at a much, much higher, exponentially higher level in order to achieve success. And one of the things that we didn't do well enough early on, quite frankly, was explaining that. And now we have a whole process that we have a pre-seeding meeting with our with our customers where we explain all of the very, very minute characteristics of the scaffold that will affect their ability to achieve a positive outcome in terms of seeding the cells on the scaffold.
Well, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you said in terms of ability to translate, not just multidiscipline, but this notion of translating, whether it's technical to business or business to technical or within the sciences to another subfield. The notion of translation and that intermediary step, and of course that's all within the educational process, is incredibly important, because if they don't feel comfortable with that and understand that and accept that, then the sale is not going to take place. So With that, I've been joined by Eric Jenkusky, who is the CEO of Matrix Meats. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
If you've enjoyed this episode, take a moment to rate our show on any podcast platform that you listen to. Scroll down to the bottom and push 5 stars. It's that easy. And as always, thanks for listening.